Hello, thank you for joining me for my review of Star Trek Picard Episode 6, The Impossible Box. This is actually my second video review of this episode. My first one was lost thanks to my tech incompetence, so this is probably going to be shorter and more scattered, and I haven't been feeling very well today, so this review is coming from me in my jammies on my bed because I'm just super classy. Never stops here. So, the first overall impression, this episode was great. For all the light complaining I did before about the plot not moving forward very much, plot definitely moved again this week, so that is good. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty of my impressions. Started off again with a flashback, technically a dream, but that continues a trend. Literally the first note I made, dark and stormy night, which proves sometimes cliches become cliches for a reason. I don't have a lot to say about the flashbacks besides saying that they were well done. It gave off a very horror movie vibe. I don't watch enough horror to say if there are any specific tropes being checked off, but it worked. I especially liked the orchids. And I especially liked later on when Soji gets the full effect of the dream in that meditation chamber, the name of which I have forgotten, that image of her as the doll on the table is very creepy, very very affecting. So, very well done. This episode paid a lot of things off, most especially the Narek Soji story. I haven't been shy about the fact that this has not been my favorite aspect of the show. Last episode, in fact, in my first review, I said that there was no Soji and Narek and that the episode was better off for it. So, they had to really work hard to impress me. One of the reasons, well, there are two big reasons that that storyline hasn't really been working for me. The first one is that it seems has seemed over the last episodes to be treading water, waiting until Picard gets there for things to happen. And now Picard has gotten there and things are happening. But it was a little too obvious about it. You could see the strings, so to speak. And the second reason I just figured out in the last week or so, it's not Soji's story. It's Narek's story. And that's been a problem. Narek is the one with the conflict, the inner conflict, and the plot goal he has to accomplish. He has to find out what Soji knows to complete his mission for the Zhat Vash. He's had the pressure from his sister. He's working under a threat of death. And he's had the conflict of where he's developing, I think they're trying to say, real feelings for Soji. So, and Soji herself has been pretty passive. So, I think that's been my problem. Because Narek, I don't want to slam the actor because I think he's done a fine job. Not spectacular, but perfectly fine. It has not worked for me. And the realization that this is more Narek's story than Soji's has not helped that impression. Though I guess I should have seen it coming, since the very first scene in the first Remembrance, the first episode, had Narek coming all dramatically out of the dark with the steam and the old school Romulan music to come talk to Soji, and it seemed, should have guessed, just was more about Narek than Soji. Anyway, another problem with this story has been the character of Nerissa Rizzo, Nerek's sister, and I had to look up her name. So that is pretty telling that is a problem, because she has done nothing. She doesn't do anything. In the very first episode, she was behind the death squad that killed Daj and her poor boyfriend, but we didn't know that until later. We didn't see her do that. And since then, she had that first scene with Commodore O, and since then she's been on the cube, talking to Narek, having the same conversation with Narek over and over and over, and working that flowers in the attic vibe, and I have yet to see any reason for that other than to just be creepy. In case we didn't get that they were bad guys, I don't know. So, even in this episode, all she really does, she spies on Narek and Soji some more, and that's it. She doesn't do anything. The only time Soji has really done anything is in that episode, Hugh's first episode, the third or fourth, I forget which, when he noticed her affinity for the Nameless, the formerly assimilated, the XBs, she'd call them by their preferred name. So, excuse me one moment. Special guest star, Molly. Say hi, Molly. She doesn't care about Trek. Anyway. Oh. The true name bit. I really like this. And my first thought was the Rahansu novels by Diane Duane. They were the first Star Trek novels I ever read. It was My Enemy, My Ally. It was in my school library, along with a few others. And that was the first Star Trek novel I ever read. And I've been reading them ever since. But anyway, the Romulans in that novel, in the subsequent novels, are they're not consistent with the canon Romulans. They're a big difference, but still, this is where my mind went. They have 4 names. The 4th name is a very private name, told only to those, quote, closer than family. At the end of that particular book, the main Romulan character, Ael, tells her name to Kirk because of how close they've become. And it was a very touching moment. Excuse me one more time. Sorry. The other dog is being silly. Anyway. And to be stripped of your names was the biggest disgrace. To not have your name. They was horrible. And that ties, well, again, they're not consistent with the canon Romulans we have. That reminds me of the Nameless, the Romulan name for the XBs, which shows their contempt for them, their refusal to consider them people. And also into this new true name thing that Narek, I think we're supposed to believe that's actually his true name that he told to Soji. Maybe he was lying about that like everything else, but I think we're supposed to buy that that's true, and that indicates he does have actual feelings. Anyway, that's that reminded me of that. And if that's a deliberate nod to those books, which they very well could be, that's wonderful, because they're really good. Anyway, my next bullet point, Hugh. Hugh, I wrote MVP. Hugh and Jonathan Del Arco were the MVPs of this episode, next to Patrick Stewart himself. That moment when Picard and Hugh met and they hugged, I actually teared up. It surprised me a little bit. But it was such a great moment, such an affecting moment. Even if you don't know the history, you've never seen Iborg or whatever, you could still feel the weight of that, I think. It's, I don't know what to say, it's just really well done. The whole Hugh Picard thing, every scene between those two was just really well done. Hugh's work with the XBs, and Picard once again mentions, you're doing good here. Don't worry about it not being perfect. There's that concept again, not making the perfect the enemy of the good, like Picard himself did way back when he left, when he resigned and retreated to Chateau. It was just beautiful. I really loved it. It really showed how their trauma is ongoing, because that's how trauma works. You don't really recover and then it's never a problem again, it never affects you. It's not like having something removed surgically. Trauma is ongoing. You have to, it becomes a part of you, a part of your life. Jesse Gender, a much more popular and better YouTube analyst than myself, talks about this in one of her recent videos, so you should definitely go check that out if for some reason you're watching me and not her. And that brings me to the title of this video. I'm really worried about Hugh, because he's in some trouble now as this episode ends. Well, Elnor is there too, but Elnor can fight really well, and nothing against Elnor. Please ignore my barking dog. Nothing against Elnor, but I'm not as invested in him as I am in Hugh. Are you gonna want a pair, or do you just want to be silly? Woo! This is Chewbacca. Yeah, I'm really worried about Hugh. I don't know why. I thought he would go when he took Soji and Picard on their escape to the Queen Cell. I thought he would go with them. But that's kind of silly. I don't know why I thought he would abandon his work, but I figured he'd burn helping Picard and Soji that way. It pretty much burned his bridges with the Romulans. So I'm scared. Please don't kill off Hugh. That would make me so sad. But yeah. Okay, now, what's going on the La Sirena? First of all, Rios and his shirtless soccer playing. 2 thumbs up to that. Because Rios is hot. This is the shallow portion of my review. Rios is really hot. Agnes, I was right about a thing. Agnes and Rios, there's a vibe. And they hooked up in this episode, so I was right. Agnes, this was a really great scene. Both actors did very well. Agnes obviously trying to forget her actions in the last episode, killing Maddox. She's not doing too good a job at it, and she says, I know when I'm making a mistake while I'm making it. And I'm thinking, Agnes, honey, you are not a criminal mastermind. You will get caught. Seize the day, so to speak. That's not a mistake. But yeah, Rios, I wrote, Rios is the best. Literally what I wrote down. He's especially wonderful with Rafi later on in that scene where he takes her to her quarters and she talks about her son. He's so kind and so empathetic to her. Unlike some people, Picard isn't unkind, but he is appreciative of what she does, getting him the Federation credentials so he'd go aboard the cube, the artifact, I suppose I should say. But there's no sense still that he really understands what this is all costing her. I don't even know that he knows her son exists, much less what the situation is there. So that's a little bit of a failure there, Picard. Failure of empathy, maybe? Failure of understanding, failure of seeing past your own needs. I'm sorry. The dog is right next to the edge of the bed. I'm afraid that he's going to fall off because he's old and not very smart. It's okay, Chewie. But, okay. Not much else to say about this episode. We end with Picard and Soji having used the Borg technology to transport to some planet called Nepenthe. And I thought I recognized that word. And I did. I had to look it up. But it's from classical Greek mythology, from the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey. It's a drug that helps you forget grief. So, for whatever that's worth, I suspect this is where we're going to meet a couple of old friends next week. So, looking forward to that. The La Sirena and those aboard her are still near the artifact. They might be in some trouble. Eleanor and Hugh are definitely in trouble, even with that badass line at the end. Don't hurt Hugh. Don't hurt Hugh. He's been so wonderful. And Jonathan Del Arco has been so wonderful. And that's kind of it. I don't have a whole lot else to say. And next week, I will be traveling when the new episode comes out. Very poor planning on my part. So I don't know. Hey, the big dog just walked into my room, so if there might be some noise, that's why they don't get along. So I'll be traveling. I don't know when I'll get to see the episode, and I don't know when I'll get to be able to do my review and post it. So we'll have to see. But other than that, please subscribe. Talk to me in the comments or on Twitter. If you have something to say, if you think I'm right, if you think I'm completely out of my mind, whatever you want to say. And until we meet again, live long and prosper.